So, hello and welcome to Hildebrand. Now, I'm going to be revealing the results from the James Bond sound off, which is something I've been wanting to do for a while. So, first of all, I'd like to thank you all of those who've took part, because without your votes, none of this would be possible. So yeah, it's the plan is for me to do a series of videos with some special guests in between to put in their thoughts on certain particular tracks. So yeah, I'm going to be basically revealing five soundtracks at a time, starting from the bottom. So yeah, I mean, obviously with the results, which I've been keeping track of, that they are quite interesting. There's some ones which I can understand why they've landed where they are, and some which have surprised me a bit, really. So yeah, I'm going to try and make this as quickly as possible. So I'm going to start off with the one that's been scored the lowest by Hildebrand, and this is the Spectre soundtrack by Thomas Newman. So yeah, I kind of understand why it is landed where it is. I'm still surprised because I wasn't expecting that to be the bottom. But yeah, that's been voted as the lowest of the low. So yeah, I mean it's. I think personally, I just don't think Thomas Newman can score Bond films or score any action. To be fair, I think probably what's made this where it is landed is because it is basically copy and paste of Skyfall. There is some original pieces in there, but nothing that stands out. But the most annoying thing is that he just doesn't want to use the Bond theme. And this is going against what David Arnold said, because David Arnold said, a Bond film, without the Bond theme, it's just a generic action film. There's no Bond film. And with Spectre, there's he kind of teases us with the Bond theme. So yeah, it's which I kind of think is a bit of a letdown. I mean, there is a few good pieces in there. I mean, the Day of the Dead sequence, the opening. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff which is obviously repeated from Skyfall. So yeah, I kind of get where why that has landed at 25. At 24 is Monty Norman's Doctor No. Again, I I understand why this has landed where it has landed, but also I kind of think it's probably misunderstood because the music that's on the album, majority of it doesn't actually appear on the film, and what's in the film doesn't appear on the soundtrack, which just seems to be the case with the Bond scores. Now, it's the thing. Now, the thing with Monty Norman is that when you watch the film, there is actually orchestral pieces in there. I mean, he does play the Bond theme. When Bond goes back to his flat, and there is, of course, the music that accompanies the famous tarantula scene, which David Arnold kind of later used in The World Is Not Enough. So there is actually some good pieces in there. It's just that as an album, when you listen to the album, I mean, I have this on shuffle, and all of a sudden this song comes up, and I'm thinking, what the fucking hell is this? And I realise it's Doctor No. So there is some actually really cool sort of sounds and pieces in there which kind of make it really ahead of its time. But yeah, I mean, this kind of just shows that obviously when John Barry came along, John Barry kind of came up with that Bond sound, and every other composer that came and followed went and was gauged against John Barry, and and then but the thing is if Monty Norman went and did the 11 consecutive films, we as Bond fans wouldn't know any different, and we would think that Monty Norman was the man to do Bond. But yeah, I mean, I think yeah, I totally get why it has landed at number 24, but I do think it is kind of like sort of misjudged because I think there is some good orchestral pieces in there. And the thing with Monty Norman, and the thing with any film composer, with not just Bond films but with films in general, you've got to you know, take the music to where the audience and where the characters are going in the film. You know, if you're going to exotic locations, you've got to follow it. And Monty Norman does that brilliantly with the Jamaican style and the calypso beat. So yeah, Doctor No at 24. Now at 23, now this is where our special guest, Mr. Stephen Bain, who we know absolutely detests GoldenEye, and he's going to be giving us his thoughts on this soundtrack. Now this lands at 23, which doesn't surprise me. It's a bit of a controversial one. As listening to this just as a soundtrack, it is really cool. I mean, there's some really cool. I mean, because I bought some new headphones recently, and there's some really cool, funky sounds going off there. But but it just doesn't scream Bond, and I think this is where people are so fixated on the John Barry sound, and that's where they gauge all Bond soundtracks on John Barry. And obviously, I mean, even John Barry himself said, "What the fuck is this shit?" You know, even though he'd recommended Eric Serra to the to the producers. So yeah, I mean, as an album on its own, it's brilliant. There's some really cool pieces, and to be fair, I mean, there's some, like there's let's see, we share the same passion, run, shoot, and jump. That what keeps you alone. Dish out of water. They are actually really cool sort of tracks. I mean, thank God John Oldman was brought in to rescore the Tank Chase. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, I mean, Stephen Bain, the god, the man who worships Golden, I'm sure he's got some positive things to say. And I have to be fair, it is a good soundtrack, but it just doesn't scream Bond. So yeah, that landed at number 23. Now, at 22 was The Spy Who Loved Me. Now, it's kind of interesting how we haven't got to any John Barry yet. Now, The Spy Who Loved Me, again, it's an interesting case. I totally get why it's landed where it was, but it's the same old, same old. All the decent pieces are not on the soundtrack. To actually listen to the decent pieces, you've got to watch the film. Now, the soundtrack itself, it's a very bizarre one because Marvin Hamlish, for some reason, decided to do a separate recording. So all the tracks on here are totally individual to what's on the film. I mean, yeah, okay, we've got Nobody Does It Better, which is an anthem in itself. Bond 77, brilliant. And Right to Atlantis, which, that's kind of like sort of elevator music, at its top form. So yeah, I mean, overall, if you watch the film, there is actually a lot of good pieces in there which are not on this. So I kind of totally understand why. I mean, I suppose if La La Land do ever give us an expander score, I'll have to do this again, just to see where things land, because I do think so far the scores we've got are a little bit misunderstood because of just how the way the soundtrack album is compiled. But yeah, so The Spy Who Loved Me is at number 22. Sorry, did I say that? 22. Now at 21 is Thomas Newman's debut, Skyfall. Now, yeah, I mean, to be honest, out of the two of his scores, I much prefer this. And when I went to see Skyfall in concert, this score just went right up in my estimations. He's got the Bond theme in there. He's got what I like to call M's theme. He's got a Brave New World and the Komodo Dragon. That's a good thing because he incorporates Skyfall into that, and the Chimera. They're all good, solid tunes. And Tennyson Inquiry. I mean, that's a powerful piece. So out of the two, I mean, I think Newman did pretty well with this, but then when he got to Spectre, I think he just took a back seat and just clicked the copy and paste. But yeah, so yeah, I mean Skyfall. I'm kind of sort of happy to where it landed. So yeah, so that is this sort of section so far. So the bottom five is Spectre, Doctor No, Goldeneye, The Spy Who Loved Me, and Skyfall. Stephen Bain will be expressing his views on Goldeneye. So, yes, thank you for that, folks, and I'll be back tomorrow to reveal the next five soundtracks. So, yeah, please feel free to comment below, and just let us know your thoughts and whether or not you agree where these kind of end up landing. But yeah, anyway, thank you once again for your votes. Ta-da for now.